All right, today I'm going to take you through my massive Kago Shintaro art and manga collection. Kago Shintaro is an Ero Guro artist and illustrator. He got his breakout in hentai manga and doujinshi because his risque and often violent works were too out there for mainstream manga. If you want to get into his stuff, I would highly recommend Dementia 21. These have been released in two volumes, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And these are the ones that are easily accessible in bookstores and have been translated into English. A lot of his other works are very hard to find. Dementia 21 is about an elderly care physician who deals with bizarre phenomena with her patients. So this is a patient who has dementia, and every time she forgets somebody's name, they explode like they're erased from existence. Oh, here's another good one. Like it's a family that's trying to decide whether to pull the plug or not of their loved one, and they're kind of squeamish about it. So they decide, okay, we're all gonna press the button at the same time, so we won't know who pulled the plug. Um, and it gets complicated because they mix up the wires and they accidentally end up like killing patients in neighboring facilities. Um, and so they have to track the wires throughout the hospital, and they just get more and more convoluted until there's literally just kind of like entire rooms filled with wires and entire just sort of corridors filled with wires. It almost becomes like a jungle. Um, and there are even like mini societies that spring out of these wire infested corridors, and there are like organ harvesters you can see in the sort of like the lower corner. um, that's the sort of thing that Kago does, is he takes a relatively simple dark premise and then just extrapolates on it until you can hardly believe like where it started and then where it ended. Next up, we have Industrial Revolution and World War. This story is about a group of gerbils that find naked women embedded in mountains, fight them to the death, then use the women's corpses to construct machines made out of human flesh, develop a metropolis where you've got cars skittering around on human hands, and then they're invaded by a fascist bunch of like bugs who are riding machines and tanks that are made out of men's body parts, and it all plays out silently. So it's a metaphor for the Industrial Revolution, the First World War. I'll just give you a bit of a taste, just so you know the context of what's going on. Here you can see some of the initial fights between the gerbils and the ladies there. And you can sort of see here we've got like a vehicle made out of a human hand with a gerbil riding on top. Yeah, they're sort of using them to construct like their farms and societies and civilizations. Here we have more of the Goru aspect to the story. Yeah, look at that just messed up sort of human centipede looking monstrosity. Um, Sort of a callback to the cover. And then the grand finale with the war between the sort of fascist bugs and the gerbils. Oh yeah, and you've got the money shot of like the like girl cyborg things just eating a giant male cyborg tank, and it's absolutely disgusting. So it's all a metaphor to show everyone that no good can come from warfare in the most disturbing anime way possible. Kago Shintaro's longest complete work is called The Princess of the Neverending Castle, or as I like to call it, Hentai Inception. The story is about the assassination of Oda Nobunaga by Akechi Mitsuhide, which is a true Japanese historical event. However, in this version, there are two parallel timelines that open up. One where Oda Nobunaga is assassinated by his former general, and the other timeline is where Nobunaga survives. And the castle itself, where he was assassinated, splits in twain, like a tree growing, with two separate timelines contained in each separate branch of the castle. Yeah, that sort of gives you a look at sort of the split castle concept. Now, the princess of the Neverending Castle gets stuck between the two points where the castle merges, and if you get stuck there, it's like you grow an extra head. She then seeks the aid of other people who have been stuck in between the two castle joints, who have also grown two heads, and teams up with them. So it's kind of the princess who's trying to avenge her murdered husband by teaming up with a bunch of, two-headed mutants to assassinate, this general dude. They should give you a good look at the fights that happen later on in the story, especially amongst the people with multiple heads versus the people with just normal heads. The Princess of the Neverending Castle has everything you'd want out of a Kago Shintaro story. It has a lot of perversion, body horror, dark humor, mind-bending concepts, and it's by far his most epic, trippy, genre-bending piece he's ever produced. This is the Kago Shintaro art book, sort of the first compilation of a lot of the covers and movie posters he's done, as well as a lot of his illustrative work, and it's sort of a nice compendium of all the things he's done to date. Now here's a good question. Why get into Kago Shintaro material? Why read it? Because a lot of these images are very messed up, and some of them might get you some pretty strange looks in public. Well, I think it's because Kago Shintaro, regardless of how much material of his is kind of perverse or messed up, he's doing something that can only be done within the medium of comics and illustration. And in a world where we have so many ways to be entertained, whether it's movies, books, or video games, it's nice to have somebody who's really in control of his own territory. The works of Kago Shintaro are not going to appeal to everyone, but for those who want to explore what manga and comic books are truly capable of in a pure, uncensored way, I guarantee it's going to blow your mind.